Imagine somebody from this tiny little island standing up and traveling into South America and seeing black people in Panama and hearing of black people in Venezuela and hearing of black people in Ecuador and hearing of black people in Peru, and knowing that they are all suffering under the yoke of one race which constitutes less than 10% of the world population, that they produce not for themselves but for their enemy, that they sing not their own praise but the songs of the enemy, that they worship a God, not one that looks like them or honors them, but the God of their enemy. And he stood up and he says, this must end. He must have said it in some Jamaican patois, I don't know. But he stood up and said, this must come to an end. And Marcus Garvey was not a tall giant. Marcus, if it was about size, Marcus Garvey would not have qualified. If it was about sheer brute force, Marcus Garvey would not have qualified. It was about strategy. Strategy. He stood there and said, what do black people need to do to get out of this condition? And his thing was, number one, let us look at what other people that rule them today have and make sure that black people have the same thing. That is it. He says, if white people run their own postal service, we must run our own postal service. If black people have the Red Cross, we must have the Black Cross. If white people have got their army, we must have our own army. When most of the time we talk about Marcus Garvey, that's one of the things we never mention. He had an army, more than 500,000 strong. He could call an army of more than 500,000 strong. Nations have armies. Nations have land. And he would acquire land in America, in the Caribbean, in South America. He would not only acquire land, but build institutions on that land that still survive up to today. But most significantly, Marcus Garvey recognized that the seat of African people must be in Africa and on the African continent. Marcus Garvey was the person who really said African people must go to Africa and first build their homeland so that it raised to the top of the pyramid in nearness to the Creator, and they imitate God in creativity. And that's only then African people can be respected. So when you see a sister like Ife, who has come from the Caribbean by a difficult road that is written in blood and bones of our ancestors, and come back to Africa. When you see Brother Gabriel Medine or the brothers that run this beautiful place, they are saying, Marcus Garvey, we have not forgotten. We might have been long in waking up. We might be slow like a tortoise, but a tortoise lives up to 700 years. So they have come to say, we are Garvey's children, and we are going to build this continent, and we are going to build this homeland on the principle of race first. There should be no doubt in your mind that Africa will be rebuilt and Africa will be resurrected. There should be no doubt at all. If you have any doubt, if you think that it won't happen, then you better get out of the way, and get out of town. Because those who want to rebuild Africa are ready to go. Some are on the way, and some are almost halfway. Africa will be rebuilt. Marcus Garvey's message was,